Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Celestial Tree. I'm an astrologer, intuitive reader, and soul psychologist as well. And today we are going to be chatting about the upcoming Mercury retrograde in the sign of Leo, starting on July 18th and ending on August 11th of this year. This Mercury retrograde will begin at around 15 degrees of Leo and it will end at 4 degrees of Leo, which means that it's only staying in one sign this time. So whatever area of your chart Leo rules over is likely where you're going to be feeling the effects of this retrograde the most. Before I get started, here is a gentle reminder that if you would like a reading from me, you can book with me on my website at celestialhealingrealm.com, and remember to subscribe to my new channel for more horoscopes and astrology updates. So, a retrograde in astrology is essentially when a planet appears to move backwards because of our view on Earth and also because of how the planets orbit the sun. Mercury retrograde is the most known because it tends to have the biggest impact, and it does go retrograde quite often as well. We do also have a Mercury retrograde Sun cazimi, like we do with every Mercury retrograde cycle. A cazimi is basically when a planet and the sun make a conjunction, and the planet is said to be at the heart of the sun, which amplifies its energy. This will happen around the end of July, so like July 31st, maybe August 1st, depending on where you are in the world. When Mercury retrograde and the Sun join together, it's referred to as a inferior conjunction. I know I'm getting a bit I think I'm getting a bit too technical here, but essentially if the Sun does illuminate any ideas on what you're reflecting on or some changes that you feel like making, it's best to wait until after the retrograde period to act on these ideas and put them into motion. So just to briefly explain, Mercury rules over things like communication, technology, and travel. So when we do enter into a retrograde period, these things can get quite chaotic. Our communication is not as clear, especially in things like emails and text messages. Technology can break down and we can experience travel delays as well. But it is a time of reconsidering, reflecting, revisiting things from the past, which is a good thing because sometimes we do need to reflect on things and we need to rework things in order to complete unfinished business and get closure and stuff like that. Because Mercury is going retrograde in Leo, which is a fire sign, it does mean that our drive and our passion generally might be reignited by the time this retrograde is over, which is fantastic. Leo does rule over things like playfulness and joy and children, hobbies, creative expression, and romance and romantic endeavours. So there could be some tensions and frustrations with some of these things during the retrograde period. If you are feeling some of those frustrations, it is just life's way of letting you know that changes do need to be made in some of these areas. But like I was saying before, these changes should be implemented after the retrograde period is over because the energy is so heavily focused on reflection and reassessment. Retrograde periods are not great times to start something new, so just bear that in mind as we move through this Mercury retrograde. So with that being said, I am going to give you guys your horoscopes for the upcoming Mercury retrograde, and please do remember to listen to both your sun sign and your rising sign as well. Aries suns and Aries risings. This Mercury retrograde will happen in your 5th house of love, I was going to say romance, pleasure, creative endeavours, hobbies, and children. This might be a time where it feels a little bit harder to enjoy the things that you usually enjoy, especially things pertaining to your creativity and your hobbies as well. If you are seeing someone at the moment romantically, it is likely that you could experience some misunderstandings with this person. And if you have children, you might find that they could give you a little bit of a hard time during this transit too. Just keep in mind that it's not personal. Sometimes with loved ones, we do go through brief patches where it is difficult to get along, but that is the nature of love, right? It's not always smooth and easygoing. If you're single, then you might find it difficult to connect with people and meet people in a romantic sense. I'm saying that though, but and this might be the only context that I say this in. It is a good time to reconnect with old flames, either for like closure or well, for other things. This retrograde cycle might be a time where it is difficult to kind of engage in some of the hobbies that you're used to engaging in, but it is a really good time for going back to an old hobby, a hobby that brought you a really deep sense of joy before. It's going to be really important that you strike a balance between what needs to be done duties and commitment wise, and also finding time for like pleasure and joy and creativity as well. This house does also rule over your inner child as well, so do try and find some time to connect with that part of yourself. You might find it quite healing during this Mercury retrograde, so please do keep that in mind. Taurians, Taurus suns and Taurus risings. This Mercury retrograde will happen in your fourth house of the past, home, family, and your personal life. So there might be some things from your past that come back up for you to finally address or deal with them and put them to rest. This could also be a time where there might be some issues within the home, potentially issues you might have swept under the rug before. It could be that little things like break within the home and need fixing, especially things related to like technology, like laptops and phones and stuff like that. So just bear that in mind. This is also the case with family as well. So you might have some misunderstandings with members of your family, and you could kind of feel like they're getting under your skin a lot more than they usually do. It's going to be really, really important that you give yourself and your family some patience and grace during this Mercury retrograde cycle. It might be really good to return to the things that sort of bring you emotional comfort as well. It's not necessarily the time for trying something new in regards to being able to comfort yourself during the Mercury retrograde, but doing the things that you know have worked in the past is going to be really, really good. This is a really good time to reconnect with family as well. It's a good time to make some improvements to your home and to your living space. This could be tidying up. If you have any home improvement endeavours, then you could like pick those back up, redecorating as well. If you are feeling emotional at any point during this cycle, your sign is quite a physical sign. Taurus is quite a physical energy, so try to prioritize doing physical things that kind of take you from your mind into your body. And that should help you through this particular Mercury retrograde cycle. Gemini suns and my fellow Gemini risings. This Mercury retrograde will happen in your third house of communication, short distance travel, siblings, and also learning as well. This is the house that Mercury rules over, so you can kind of expect to have the typical Mercury retrograde problems occur. So trouble with communication, especially over text and over email, travel problems as well, and travel delays. So please do leave extra time when you're going somewhere. Also technological problems as well, so phones and laptops, even cars if you have a car as well. I don't drive, so I always forget to mention, like I forget that people own cars, but yeah, even cars can be really frustrating during this time. Aside from these things, the third house is also largely a mental space. So it might feel like your mind is kind of everywhere, more so than usual. And you know, us Geminis, we exist up here within our mind compared to some of the other signs. But there is a chance that if you aren't taking care of yourself, you can kind of feel that a little bit scattered and a little bit anxious as well, at times during this Mercury retrograde cycle. So try to find a healthy outlet to channel your mental energy into. It could be something stimulating like gaming. I always mention gaming because that's what I do. It could be something relaxing like colouring. I also colour as well. So just something to help you focus so you don't feel so scattered mentally. I think when it comes to communication, it's really important that you slow down, review, and take a pause before communicating something, especially if it's something important. Part of communication is also being able to listen and understand others as well, which obviously you know. So if there are any sort of miscommunications, try to consider if both parties have all the information that they need and there's no wires being crossed anywhere. This is also a fantastic time to revisit and review any writing projects that you're working on, whether that's essays or articles or books. This retrograde is a great time to return to or finish up those kinds of projects. So do keep that in mind during this Mercury retrograde cycle. Cancerians, Cancer suns and Cancer risings. This Mercury retrograde will happen in your second house of finances, values, self-esteem and talents. So between July 18th and August 11th, this could be a time where there might be some tensions and frustrations when it comes to things like money and finances. There could be some unexpected expenses that come up, or there might be something in your budget that you kind of missed before and it comes up during this retrograde cycle. I know it sounds a bit stressful, but that's why I'm letting you know what could happen so you don't feel like it's out of the blue. This is a fantastic time to review your budget and make sure that everything is in order. It's really important that if at any point during this Mercury retrograde cycle, if you feel stuck or overwhelmed, sorry, my hay fever, the best thing to do is to reconnect with the physical world in some way. The second house is ruled by Taurus, which is a very physical sign. So grounding practices and reconnecting with the moment is going to be really important if you find yourself in a tough spot. Try to avoid big purchases as well. If you can't avoid a big purchase, then make sure whatever you buy is insured or it has a warranty. It's a really good time to, if you're strapped for cash, it's a really good time to revisit old ways of making money that might have worked in the past. So keep that in mind as well. This could also be a time where your confidence might take a little bit of a dip. You might be feeling really dissatisfied with your physical appearance in some way. What I would say is try to find some inspiration for a change that you might want to make to your physical appearance when the retrograde cycle is over. So it could be like a new hair color, it could be a new style or new clothes, or you could revisit a style that you liked before. So that might help if those sort of like that dip in confidence does arise at any point during this Mercury retrograde cycle. Leo suns and Leo risings. Oh, mascara in my eye. How are we, Leos? This Mercury retrograde will happen in your first house of physical body, identity and life path. Now, Mercury retrograde in this area of your chart can be a little bit difficult sometimes. I will walk you through it though. Between July 18th and August 11th is a time where you might be feeling a little bit impatient. Things might seem to kind of get under your skin a lot more, and there might be a lot of stuff to kind of manage. It might feel a little bit overwhelming at times, but if there is anything that comes up that has the energy of like a second chance of some kind, it's the perfect it's the perfect time to give it another go. Try to prioritize things really carefully. Be patient with yourself during this cycle as well. Try to remain flexible so that if things do come up, it doesn't feel so blindsided and sort of out of the blue. I really want to say go with the flow, but that does mean different things for different people. But I guess I'm trying to say it's really important that you stay open to realizing like what needs to change in regards to your identity and your life path, and how you navigate your path as well. Also, in regards to your physical body, try to take it slow this retrograde cycle, because when Mercury goes retrograde in this particular area of your chart, it is possible that you can sort of move too quickly and get like bruises or like small cuts and things like that. So try and take it easy and try and keep some of the things that I mentioned before in mind during this Mercury retrograde cycle. Virgos, Virgo suns and Virgo risings. This Mercury retrograde cycle will happen in your 12th house of rest, spirituality, subconscious, and what is hidden, what we can't see. So, Virgos, this does feel like a little bit of a heavier transit for you. There might be times during this retrograde where you feel like things from the past are coming back up in order for you to kind of finally address them and release them so that you can feel lighter. You might become aware of parts of your subconscious. There could be issues or motivations that kind of make themselves clearer during this transit. So it is really important that you are gentle with yourself during this time. This might also be a time where you suffer with a little bit of insomnia. And it might be really difficult to find time to rest, and even when you do find time to rest, you feel like restless and unable to kind of get the right amount of sleep. It is a time where you might, at points during the Mercury retrograde cycle, you might feel a little bit exhausted mentally and physically as well, potentially because of the lack of sleep, potentially because of other stuff. It is probably best that you do prioritize self-care and relaxation. You might also need to reinforce your boundaries with people as well so that they aren't adding to the exhaustion that you're already feeling. It is a time for releasing, it's a time for moving on from old issues, clearing out whatever's sort of weighing you down. It's also a really good time to reconnect with your own personal spirituality as well, or return to some type of therapeutic method that kind of helped you in the past. Try to take it easy, make time for rest and breaks in your day-to-day during this Mercury retrograde cycle. Librans, Libra suns and Libra risings. This Mercury retrograde cycle will happen in your 11th house of friends, groups and long-term goals for the future. This is a time for looking at your future through a completely different lens. There might be times during this transit where you feel a little bit disconnected from your dreams and from your goals for the future as well. You might be questioning some of those goals and being like, if I want to achieve this, how am I going to make that happen? Is it even possible? Those are kind of some of the questions, like how realistic is this? How tangible is this goal? You know, is it within reach? And that's quite a heavy feeling, to be honest with you. It's not easy to kind of have to reassess your future. I feel like the future is going to be on your mind quite a lot during this Mercury retrograde. It is a good time to reassess whether or not the goals that you have are aligned with you, or if you want to switch it up and sort of make some changes. If you do feel a little bit insecure when it comes to your goals, try to consider if there's something else at play. It could be a fear, it could be an issue that you need to work through so that you can feel more confident in your goals and how you approach them as well. In terms of your friendships, this could be a time where your friends or any groups that you're a part of are a little bit frustrating. Not gonna lie, there might be some underlying issues with your friends and your groups. There could be some misunderstandings and miscommunications when it comes to like how you interact with the people that are closest to you. It is a really good time to reconnect with an old friend from the past, or rejoin a group that you used to be part of before. Not like forever, but just briefly. I feel like doing these things will kind of make the retrograde cycle a little bit easier to navigate. And some of those old friends and acquaintances might offer some really helpful advice and guidance for how you are feeling or how you might feel during this retrograde cycle. So do keep that in mind. Scorpios, Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. This Mercury retrograde will happen in your 10th house of career, public reputation and status as well, and also authority figures. So this might be a time where you might have some issues when it comes to your career and your career goals. You might feel a little bit off track when it comes to the progress that you're making career-wise. It might feel tricky trying to create a clear plan of the actions that you want to take, or even understanding what those goals are in the first place as well. There could also be some misunderstandings with people in positions of authorities, so like bosses and managers, mentors, and even parents during this time as well. This is actually the perfect time to review your career goals. And even if you're unsure of what those career goals are, try to think about what aligns with you now. Is there a goal that you had that you kind of let fall to the wayside that you would like to try again? Are the current goals that you have aligned with who you have grown into over the course of the last, I was going to say year, but actually the last few years? This is a time to try and remain flexible and open to things. For example, there might be an opportunity that comes up that helps you towards your goals, that is kind of unconventional and a little bit different from how you imagined it in your mind. So try and remain open-minded, because you just never know what could come up. You might meet someone from your past who, when you have a conversation with them, they're like, oh, I can help you with that. So just try and be flexible with things like that. If you do feel delayed when it comes to your career and your goals, try to think about what needs to change in order for you to feel motivated and feel like you're working towards your goals with more optimism and enthusiasm as well. This is a really good time to reconnect with an old mentor or an old boss, because they might be able to sort of point you in the right direction if you are feeling like a little bit lost. So do keep that in mind during this particular Mercury retrograde cycle. Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings. This Mercury retrograde cycle will happen in your 9th house of overseas travel, higher learning and beliefs. So this might be a time where your personal philosophy and your belief system feels a little bit tested. There might be circumstances and situations that present themselves during this transit that kind of call your personal beliefs into question. You might find yourself trying to kind of hold on to those beliefs and double down on some of your personal philosophies, but it is really important for you to re-examine for all of us to re-examine our belief systems sometimes, so that we're not like closing ourselves off to different ideas and different knowledge as well. Try to consider if your current belief system aligns with the person you are now, with the person you've grown into. This could also be a time where if you are traveling anywhere, especially overseas, Try to leave extra time to account for delays. And also stay open-minded, because when it comes to traveling during Mercury retrograde, especially when Mercury retrograde is in this area of your chart, some really like weird and unpredictable things. I'm not trying to scare you, but I just mean like, yeah, just double check everything, triple check the details of your baggage, like your baggage allowance, and your tickets and stuff. Just check everything. This is also a really good time to return to some type of higher learning, whether that's structured or otherwise. If you're already learning something, then this might be a time where it feels quite hard to motivate yourself to study and do the work that you need to do. So I would say lean into that energy a little bit more. Like if you're kind of struggling to motivate yourself to study and do the reading, um, just take it slow. Take it slow. So yeah, do keep that in mind around the Mercury retrograde cycle. Capricorns, Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. This Mercury retrograde will happen in your 8th house of shared resources, intimacy, and psychological transformation. So this retrograde cycle might be a time where you feel a little bit distant from the world. You might notice some parts of yourself that kind of need shifting and releasing around this time, kind of parts of your psyche that need to be moved in order for you to feel a bit lighter. It might feel a little bit heavy and a little bit emotional at times during this retrograde cycle, but it'll be really good for you to kind of use it as an opportunity to put your energy and your effort into transforming the things in your life that you feel aren't working for you currently. It's also a time where you could experience some frustrations when it comes to finances, especially the finances that you share with others. So like a partner, a bank, or a loan company, just off the top of my head. If at any point you do feel quite emotional or you feel quite heavy, try to channel that into a healthy outlet so that it doesn't all like bubble up and spill over all at once. It's a great time to sort of work through some of the deeper parts of your psyche. So there could be stuff from the past that you're kind of holding on to, and the retrograde cycle kind of gives you some time and some space to kind of finally work through some of those things in order for you to feel more yourself once the retrograde cycle is over. In terms of intimacy, you might crave a deeper kind of intimacy, not maybe like a deeper, darker kind. Originally, that's what I was going to say, but it's more so like a more intense kind of intimacy. The 8th house is a very, it's like all or nothing kind of house. So if you do feel yourself kind of feeling things like you feel more controlling or you feel more possessive, consider if there is a deeper issue that needs to be worked through. Aquarius suns and Aquarius risings. This Mercury retrograde will happen in your 7th house of contracts, marriage, partnerships, and relationships of all kinds. So this is a cycle where your relationships might be at the forefront of your mind. It is a time where you should probably be a little bit careful and mindful about how you interact with those you are partnered with, whether that's romantic or business related. It is a good time to renegotiate if you are unhappy with the terms, any terms that you might have agreed to before. This particular Mercury retrograde cycle, I don't know why I'm smiling, but it might bring back some old connections from the past. And it's important that you remain mindful of those connections that do come back from the past, because the 7th house is also the house that rules over open enemies as well. So just bear that in mind, that not everybody who comes back is there for your highest good, and I feel like rational and logical, but also intuitive enough to know who is there for you and who's not really there for you. If you are married, you could have some misunderstandings with a spouse or with a partner. And if you're single, it might be really difficult to meet people who are sort of ready for commitment. I should also mention actually that it is not the time to start any, I don't know why I'm getting so passionate about this, but do not start any new relationships during this particular Mercury retrograde, or any Mercury retrograde, but this one in particular. It is going to take a lot of patience on your part, like during this transit, not just with your loved ones, but with yourself and with how you communicate and your communication style. Reinforcing your boundaries and also taking some time away on your own for some peace and quiet is going to be really, really good for rebalancing and making sure that you are not over accommodating anybody. It's also a really good time for re-examining your existing partnerships, and seeing if there are any changes that need to be made in order for you to sort of accommodate both parties. If at any point during this retrograde cycle you find yourself feeling like you're surrounded by chaos and drama, or you feel like you're unable to kind of be decisive and make decisions, try to find a quiet place to be with yourself and clear your mind. That is really, really going to help during this Mercury retrograde. Pisceans, my fellow Pisces suns and Pisces risings, this Mercury retrograde cycle will happen in your 6th house of work, co-workers, daily routines and physical health. I know that work and health wise it has been a little bit of a tough time for us, especially in May. Especially in May, when Mars was in Leo, in the same area of our chart. But this retrograde cycle could be one where you do see the return of some old health issues, which is not ideal, but if it does happen, then it might be a really good idea to visit a doctor that you've seen in the past. They might be able to advise you, especially if they saw you for that same problem before. Obviously, that is not super accessible to everyone, but it is just a suggestion if you can make that happen. This might also be a time where work and co-workers get really frustrating, and it might feel really difficult to motivate yourself to work or to get along with those that you work with as well. There could be misunderstandings with your co-workers and some issues with your actual work, in terms of you, like, missing deadlines and having to sort of redo work, which is annoying. I know. Depending on your charts, some of you Pisceans might move jobs, or change jobs, like move your working environment or change jobs altogether during this particular Mercury retrograde cycle, especially if the stress gets too much at work. It's going to be really important that you correctly manage your stress during this time, because as you guys know, increased stress can also exacerbate any existing health problems that you might have. If you're super stressed when it comes to your work or when it comes to your daily routine, try to prioritize doing something joyful outside of those work hours, because we all need to work, but try to focus more so on joy outside of when you're working. That's going to be really, really important for your emotional regulation, as well as remaining flexible and having a healthy stress outlet to kind of help you through. So try to keep that in mind during this particular Mercury retrograde cycle. So that is all for today, guys. Remember to like this video and subscribe to my new channel for more astrology updates and horoscopes. Also follow me on TikTok and Instagram. They're both linked in the description box below. And leave a comment about how you're going to navigate this Mercury retrograde in Leo. Happy healing, everyone.